Take a slow breath in. Hold it for a quiet moment. Let it drift out like mist across the treetops. Tonight, we are not here for puzzles or peril. We are here for gentleness, for the kind of story that does not insist or hurry. A story that moves the way night air moves through pine needles, soft and sure and patient. Imagine the town of Gravity Falls at the very edge of evening. The sky is the color of a blueberry bruise. Porch lights warm up along the ridge like tiny hearths. A radio hums through a window that is half open and half dreaming. The last bikes roll home. The last shop sign turns from open to resting. You can hear the creak if you listen, not as words, not as warnings, only as a lullaby that has been humming here long before anyone drew a map. Find a good place to settle. Maybe you are on the Mystery Shack's back steps, the boards worn smooth by countless summers. Maybe you are on a hill near the water tower where wildflowers curl into themselves for sleep. Maybe you are in that secret little patch behind the library where the ground stays cool even after a long day. Wherever you are, the town is near enough to feel safe and far enough to feel wide. A breeze moves and the pines answer. They are the oldest storytellers in this valley. Their voices are never loud. Their stories come in little strands like thin silver threads pulled carefully from a sleeve. Tonight we will follow those threads, not to tug them free, only to lay them gently over the heart and listen. We will walk down Main Street as it settles. We will pause under the bell tower when it shares its special hour. We will follow the postman on a route that chooses him as much as he chooses it. We will visit archives where maps glow softly, markets where trinkets hum in the hand, and the river where lanterns carry the names of things we love out into the quiet. We will linger at the shack, where tools nap on the workbenches and mysteries remember to be kind. We will lift our eyes to the constellations that watched over older summers and will watch over newer ones. We will hear how the carnival lights sigh when the rides stop, how boats become cradles when the lake is still, how a goodbye can be as warm as a blanket and as light as a feather. There are no sharp corners here. If you stumble upon a memory that once felt too bright, the town itself will dim it for you, the way someone might lay a cloth over a lamp. If something strange appears, it will do so politely. If a door opens into a place you do not know, it will wait for your nod. Nothing will chase, nothing will shout. This is the soft hour. This is the place where the grin of trouble relaxes and becomes the smile of a story. If you want, you can hold a cup of something warm. Tea that tastes faintly of mint and honey. Cocoa that remembers campfires and marshmallows and laughter. Or simply a cup of water, clear as the lake, cool as a clean sheet. The cup is a small moon in your hands. The steam is the fog rolling in from the river. Take a sip and feel the story settle even deeper. The pines lean closer, not to crowd, to guard. They make a room out of their branches. The ceiling is star-filled and patient. The walls are green and good. The floor is pine needles and the day's soft dust. You can hear a cricket somewhere off to your left, testing out a rhythm for the night. You can hear a screen door, then a mother's voice, then a laugh answered with another laugh. You can hear your own breath, steadying, settling, agreeing that this is the right pace. If your thoughts wander, let them. The town is shaped for wandering. Every path is a loop that returns to a place that feels like home. Every story is a circle that closes without locking. You can drift in and out. You can doze and wake and doze again. The story will be here. The pines will hold your place. When you are ready, we will begin on Main Street, where day meets night, the way a hand meets another hand. Slowly, promise that both will be better for touching. Take one more soft breath, and let the evening open. Main Street at dusk feels like a page that is almost finished. The sentence is long and friendly. The final period has not been set down yet, but the meaning is already clear. Lamps rise one by one, a necklace of quiet golden beads. The bakery door sighs closed, and the warmth inside lingers on the sidewalk like a memory of cinnamon. Somewhere, a broom makes its steady whisper along a threshold, collecting the day's crumbs, deciding what the town will keep and what the wind will carry away. You walk slowly. You have time. Everybody has time. Because Gravity Falls is a place where clocks live among people, not above them. A cat stretches across the step of the hardware store, a little ruler of fur measuring the last light. A notice board holds flyers for block parties, knitting circles, and the annual Blueberry Jam Exchange, where nobody wins and everybody takes home a jar. The paper edges lift in the breeze like hands volunteering for a story. You pass Bud's convenience store and see 3 glow sticks that accidentally activated themselves. A tiny northern lights trapped in plastic. You pass the barber's chair in the window and imagine the heads that rested there all summer, hair falling like thin leaves, worries trimmed and folded into the pocket of a day that went better than expected. You pass the diner and catch a final wave from someone on the evening shift. A little see you tomorrow that always feels bigger than it sounds. Main Street is tidy, but not perfect. A bicycle leans at the wrong angle against the lamppost, exactly as it does every evening, as if practicing a slouch. A chalk hopscotch grid remains from the afternoon, the numbers smudged into soft clouds. A window shows a reflection so calm it looks like a second slower town that lives in the glass and yawns when this one yawns. On the corner, the bell tower waits. It likes to be noticed, but it never shouts for attention. It stands the way a grandfather might stand at the back of a photo, tall and sure, content to be part of many stories without claiming it. The masonry still holds the chill of morning, and somewhere inside it, gears wait with patient teeth. They are never in a hurry to close the day. They know the day will close itself. You pause at the crosswalk. A truck rolls by carrying bundles of soft hay that have nothing to do with the forest and everything to do with small animals who will sleep well tonight. The driver nods. You nod back. In Gravity Falls, a nod is a greeting, a promise, a paragraph. From an upstairs window, a tangle of fairy lights blinks in slow conversation with the street lamps. A wind chime answers, not with jingle, but with the low, glassy tone of a contented sigh. The air carries the scent of pine resin, warm bread, and the distant, sweet metal of the lake. If the day had a pocket, this would be the moment it slips a little gift inside for you to find later. A perfect pebble, a dried flower petal, a ticket stub to a carnival you loved. You step into the general store for a moment, just to feel the wooden floorboards talk under your feet, just to look at shelves where everything is a small, useful promise. Twine, buttons, a tin of cookies with a picture that looks like your favorite holiday. A row of notebooks waiting for someone to decide what they want to remember. The bell on the door murmurs as you leave, as if to say that leaving is part of belonging too. Outside, the last sunlight slides off the water tower and slips down the hill in a pale golden ribbon. A boy teeters on the curb, pretending it is a balance beam, arms wide, a pilot of the space between day and night. His mother holds the paper bag with dinner, warm grease promising satisfaction. Someone on a porch breaks bread open by hand, steam escaping like a sigh of gratitude. Every town has secrets. Gravity Falls has many. But at this hour, they are not secrets. They are comforts. The oddness is gentle. The weird becomes wise. A mailbox might blink once and declare itself satisfied with the day's letters. A bench might shift slightly to better face the moon. A street sign might rewrite a tiny loop of its own history, choosing a memory of children laughing over a memory of rain you are not expected to notice. But if you do, the noticing will be easy and kind. You pass the florist's closed, but a little bouquet in the window keeps standing straighter than gravity demands. A note hangs from its ribbon, blank on purpose. The town trusts you to write what you need to see there. Maybe you write rest. Maybe you write home. Maybe you write nothing at all, and the blankness is exactly the message you needed. When the first stars lift out of the dark like timid fireflies, Main Street slows itself one notch further. You can feel the gear click. Children become silhouettes. Dogs become shadows with wagging ends. Conversations become the soft music of plates and cutlery and gratitude. The day is done presenting. The night begins to hold. At the far end of the street, the trees gather in a dark, soft choir. Their trunks are columns. Their canopy is a roof. Between the buildings and the forest, nothing is at war. The town and the woods are neighbors who have learned to share a fence and pass pies over it. Some evenings, the town brings songs. Some evenings, the forest brings stars. Tonight, they bring both. You look back the way you came. The lamps are steady. The windows are warm. The bakery's sign swings once, then rests. In another minute, the bell tower will begin its ritual. You begin to drift toward it without thinking, as if tapped on the shoulder by a quiet friend who knows you like bells. Main Street narrows as you near the square. The bricks remember dances. The fountain remembers coins and the wishes that gently refuse to be hurried. You sit on the low stone rim. The water talks in a language that requires no translation. You listen. The listening is enough. When you stand again, the town stands with you. Your steps and its steps are the same slow music. The clock face turns its calm attention to you, not as a warning, not as a command, only as a friendly teacher who loves to show you the next page when you are ready. You are ready. You carry Main Street with you as you go. You carry the smell of bread, the curl of chalk dust, the small nods of strangers who have always been more than strangers. You carry the certainty that evening here is not an ending. It is a beginning that happens every night and always knows your name. The bell tower is older than memories can count cleanly. People guess. The tower does not correct them. It is made of stone that looks like it was poured into the shape of patience. Ivy climbs it in a polite way, asking permission, taking only what it needs. There's a small door at the base, painted the color of old moss. It never locks. It never swings open by itself. The rule is simple. If you need the bell tower, you will find that you know how to open the door. If you do not need it, the door will feel like an old photograph, lovely to look at and perfect to leave undisturbed. At the top, a bell hangs, solemn as the moon, kind as a grandmother's hands. Its lip is smooth with the years of weather. Its mouth is a cave of evening. When it rings, the sound does not push. It invites. It spreads across rooftops and into kitchens and around trees, and every place it touches becomes a fraction more itself. There is a local saying, not printed anywhere, only shared like a secret you tell a child to make them feel powerful. It goes like this. The bell keeps 2 hours, one for clocks, one for hearts. The clock hour is the one everyone can count. The heart hour is the one that arrives when it is ready. Some nights, the heart hour is a minute tucked inside the bigger hour like a seed in an apple. Some nights, it is long enough to walk from the square to the lake, from one memory to another, from a worry to a rest. Tonight you arrive as the first chime prepares to step into the air. You can almost see it. You can almost see the sound shape, round and wholesome, like bread coming out of an oven. The rope is pulled once, twice, then with the steady pattern that has told this town the truth about time for as long as anyone has needed to hear it. The first chime lands on the square and folds itself over the fountain. The second sails into the bakery where it sits on the rack with the cooling loaves. The third leans into the post office and reads the names on envelopes like a bedtime poem. The fourth drifts as far as the woods and answers some small creature's question about the night. You feel each one, not as a blow, as a reassurance that this is the hour you are in, and it is good. When the clockwork has finished its count, the town sighs in contentment. This is when the heart hour opens, if it wishes to. There is no trick to it, no ritual anyone can force. But if you are very still, you may notice it. The air goes soft the way wool goes soft when you hold it too long. The shadows flatten and become warm. The second hand on the face seems to step more quietly. Voices in nearby windows lower themselves until they are almost purring. In the heart hour, people remember the kind things they meant to say and go ahead and say them. In the heart hour, apologies come out right on the first try. In the heart hour, a recipe you have tried to perfect for years finally tastes like what you hoped it would taste like. In the heart hour, the town feels like a book that knows when you are sleepy and chooses a calm chapter without being asked. Sometimes, a traveler hears the extra quiet and asks a local, "Why is it so calm now?" The local will shrug with a smile and say something like, "Oh, that is just the bell tower being friendly." And that will be enough. The bell tower has seen storms. The kind that come in fast and talk loud. The kind that spend all afternoon deciding whether to visit, then knock once and enter. It has seen winters that piled coats on the town until even the statues looked well dressed. It has seen summers that ran around barefoot and begged for one more hour of light. Through all of it, the bell has been the same. Not indifferent, devoted. It rings for weddings and for quiet losses. It rings for the first day of school and for the days nobody wishes to count. It rings to mark, and it rings to men. If you place your palm on the tower's stone during the heart hour, you will feel a faint vibration. That is not magic, or if it is the kind of magic that does not mind being called ordinary. The vibration is the passing of sound through something that knows how to carry it. You are something that knows how to carry it. You feel the bell's patience. You feel the day's edges rounding off. You feel the hour decide to be kind. There is a legend that once long ago the bell refused to ring. The town waited. The rope hung with its heart exposed. The clapper rested like a tongue, unwilling to say a harsh word. People whispered. Had something happened? Had the bell found a reason to fall silent? And then, without fuss, an elderly woman walked up the stairs that spiral like a thought. She placed her hand on the bell and whispered, "Only when you are ready." The bell rang. Not because it was ordered, because it was understood. Since then, the bell has never felt alone. When it rings, it knows someone is listening with the right kind of ears. On certain nights, if you sit on the square while the heart hour is open, you will notice small miracles that never ask to be named. A stray dog will choose a home and wait by its door until the door understands. A long letter will write itself into a short one and finally be sent. A lost button will roll exactly where it belongs and stop there, proud of its purpose. The bell does not create these moments. It simply shines them, the way the moon shines what the sun forgot to finish. As the hard hour thins, you will not be thrown back into the ordinary. You will be walked there. The bell will ring once more, very quietly inside your bones, and the tower will allow the night to take its place fully. It is a relay race with only friends on the team. Nobody drops the baton. Nobody sprints. The pace is right for stories told with eyes half closed. You look up at the face. The hands glow a little. The glass holds the day and the night together like two pages sewn into the same spine. The tower does not ask you to go anywhere next. You choose. You could stay. Many do. They nap on the steps. They lean on the fountain. They listen as the square makes the small sound squares make when they think nobody is listening. Or you could walk with the bell's soft permission to the post office, where letters are known to find people who did not know they needed them. You choose the letters because tonight is a night for messages that come wrapped in gentleness. The post office in Gravity Falls smells like paper that remembers trees and ink that remembers rivers. There's a bell above the door that, unlike the bell tower, does not keep hours. It keeps greetings. Every time someone enters, it sings a note that is a little different from the last time, as if learning the tune of each person who visits and humming it back. Inside, rows of wooden boxes stretched like tiny stages. They are labeled with names and numbers and sometimes, discreetly, little drawings that only the postmaster understands. A feather for a family who loves birds. A tiny pine tree for someone who never misses a lantern walk. A dandelion for a child who once mailed a wish and received 3 wishes in return. Because the town can be generous in the safest ways. There is a story people tell on slow afternoons. They say the mail in Gravity Falls knows where it needs to go, even when it does not have the correct address. Not because of magic that bends rules, but because of a logic that cares. A postcard with only "To the person who needs this today" scrawled on the back will slide into the right box. A letter written decades ago and hidden in a book will appear on the counter at the exact right moment and be stamped with a smile. A package with a smudged label will hum quietly until the postman places it on the precise shelf where it belongs, the humming stopping as if someone said thank you to it in its own language. The postman is not in a hurry. He wears a hat that fits like an old friend and shoes that have learned the streets by heart. His bag is a sturdy companion that smells faintly of cedar shavings and peppermint. Each morning he sorts. Each afternoon he walks. Each evening he finishes the route in a way that makes the town feel complete. If you ask him what he delivers, he will say certainties. Then, after a pause, he will add, and surprises, but the kind that do not startle. You walk with him now quietly because this is how walking with the postman feels right. He moves like a sentence that knows exactly where to end. First stop, the house with the yellow swing. The envelope goes through the slot with a sound like a sigh. Second stop, the little apartment above the bookstore. A parcel thumps softly at the door and seems to tuck itself in. Third stop, the cabin at the edge of town where a grandmother who bakes bread that tastes like lullabies lives with a cat who pretends to be grumpy and fails. Along the way, there are deliveries without addresses. A folded page of music placed gently on a windowsill for a violin that has been quiet. A recipe card slid beneath the door for a family that just started cooking together. A photograph leaned against a porch step. A captured sunrise returned to someone who woke up before it and deserves proof. None of this breaks any rules here. The rule is kindness. The rule is rightness. The town respects stamps. It also respects intuition when it arrives with clean hands. The postman hums and his tune picks up a piece of the bell tower's hour and carries it forward. Birds notice and sing along in their own tempo, not matching, simply agreeing. The sky begins to polish its stars one by one. The route is almost complete, which is to say that the town's pulse is almost ready to rest for the night. At one corner, a small boy waits with a letter clutched in both hands. It is flat with hope. His name is written on the envelope because the letter is to himself, a future self who might forget the sound of a cricket or the way wet grass feels under bare feet, and so he writes it down. The postman accepts it with ceremony. He stamps it with a date that will arrive on a summer far from now. He places it in a drawer labeled, "Keep for the best reason." The boy smiles. Already hearing the note, the bell above the door will sing when he returns years later to collect a promise he made to himself. At the next stop, an elderly man receives a package addressed in handwriting he knows by heart. The handwriting is neat and patient. It belongs to someone who is no longer here, but still finds ways to arrive. He opens the box slowly. Inside is a sweater that smells like cedar and a photograph of a picnic. The sweater is exactly his size because love remains good at measurements long after clocks stop caring. He presses the wool to his cheek. No tears, only the soft amazement of being remembered by time. At the little park, the postman pauses. There is one envelope left. It has no address, no stamp, only a small pine needle taped to the corner like a flag from a very small country. He sits on the bench and waits, and you sit beside him. The envelope warms in his hand. He does not open it. He does not need to. He knows where it will go in a moment. A woman walks by with tired eyes and a grocery bag that looks heavier than it is. The postman stands, nods, and offers the envelope with both hands. She accepts it with a laugh that is almost a sob, then reads what only she can read, and the bag becomes lighter by the weight of one worry she no longer needs to carry. The route turns toward the river, where the last street of the day always feels like a hallway to sleep. Houses tuck in, curtains close. A radio plays old songs at the volume of a whisper confident in its usefulness. The postman's bag is almost empty. He places his hand inside and finds a single postcard, blank. He writes on it with a pencil that always seems to have a sharp point. "You made it through today. That is enough." He slides it into the slot of the house that looks as if it needs that sentence. He is never wrong. Back at the post office, the bell above the door sings a low, happy note. The sorting table is clear. The scales rest. In a little display case near the counter, scrapbooks hold copies of letters that were too kind not to keep a second copy of, names removed for privacy, feelings preserved for courage. People come in sometimes and read one before work, one after dinner, one on days when the world asks for more than it gives. The letters smell faintly of lavender because the postmaster tucked sachets among the pages years ago and forgot about them on purpose. You write a postcard now. You do not need an address. The postman will know. You write the words that you need to hear and that someone else somewhere needs to hear too. You sign it with a little drawing, maybe a star, maybe a leaf. The postman stamps it with the secret stamp he keeps for messages that do not ask to be traced. He tucks it into the outgoing tray, which is really a tray for incoming comfort to the world. When you step outside, the night has matured into itself. The stars are awake. The pines sound pleased with how this evening is going. The bell tower is quiet, having finished everything it needed to say. Main Street rests like a contented cat. You have walked a route that is longer than the streets it followed. It went through hearts. It went through memories. It went through a town that knows how to hold you without holding you back. You look toward the river where lanterns sometimes float. There's another walk to take by water and light and reflection. But even if you stop here, the story will continue with you. Letters will keep finding their way. Bells will keep choosing kindness. Main Street will be ready to begin again in the morning. For now, keep the rhythm of the postman's steps in your pocket. It is a good rhythm to fall asleep to. The town agrees. The pines agree. The night agrees. And you, breathing a little slower now, agree too. The archive room in Gravity Falls is not hidden. It is simply patient. It lives beneath Town Hall, down a stairway that feels like walking into the town's own memory. The steps are shallow, the rail is smooth, and the air holds that cool paper scent that makes people whisper even when nobody has asked them to. At the bottom, a wooden door waits with a key already in it. The key is for comfort, not for security. The door opens to anyone who arrives with quiet hands. Inside, the room glows, but never with harshness. Lamps with frosted shades throw milk-white circles on tables, rub the color of warm tea. Along the walls, cabinets breathe open on silent hinges, revealing maps that shimmer with pencil rivers and soft pencils of starlight. There are drawers tall as you and narrow as a promise, each labeled in tidy ink. Trails verified, trails rumored, weather oddities, local songs, receipts for pies, letters that wanted to be poems. The labels are not jokes, not here. In the archive room, the town stores anything that taught it how to be itself. A long table runs down the middle, like a friendly dock. On it, an atlas of the valley rests open, its pages slightly curled from years of breathing. If you look closely, you will see that the lines on the map are not perfectly straight, because nothing that matters in this town is perfectly straight. Rivers wander and return, paths split and reconcile. Boundaries stay polite and flexible, like good neighbors. You take a seat? The chair answers with a small creak that sounds like, "I have held many people, and I am happy to hold you." In a tray near your elbow, thin cotton gloves wait. You put them on as you would put on a thought you intend to keep clean. From a drawer labeled Founding Families, you ease out a folder that is not heavy and is not light. Within it are diaries written with the kind of pen that offers a soft scratch, entries that begin with small weather and end with small gratitude. Here is a line about smoke from a campfire smelling like a story before anyone has told it. Here is a list of names read aloud on summer Sundays, not to make a ceremony, simply to make sure nobody is forgotten by accident. Here's a sketch of a bird with too many adjectives, as if the writer was trying to name a feeling and got caught up in the feathers. You read slowly. The words do not ask to be consumed. They ask to be visited, as you might visit an elder who likes company and silence in equal measure. Across the room, a case of maps stands like a choir. When you slide one out, the edges whisper against each other in a polite shiver. On one map, the forest paths are traced in pale green pencil, with little symbols you soon learn by heart. A pine cone for where the smell of sap is always strongest. A ripple for where the creek sings louder after rain. A dot with a halo for where foxes have been seen listening to wind, as if studying for a test only they will take. At the bottom, in careful block letters, someone has written, "Paths change, that is their kindness." You feel something in your chest settle. In another drawer, you find a file titled Weather, Unusual but Friendly. It contains clippings about blueberry fog, warm snow that fell one evening and melted on thank you notes, and a brief account of the night the moonlight arrived in squares instead of stripes, because it had passed through a quilt someone left on a clothesline. The handwriting is matter of fact. The town does not dramatize itself in these pages. It acknowledges. It appreciates. it records. A small cart rattles softly somewhere behind you. The archivist moves like a leaf across a lake. They smile in a way that makes you feel already welcomed, already part of the room's memory of visitors who treated things carefully. Without interrupting your quiet, they set a cup of water near your elbow and a little dish of peppermints. The dish is always there. The mints are always cool. The water is always just as cold as you hoped it would be. Nobody has written this policy down. The archive room remembers how to be kind without being told. On a stand near the back is a binder titled Songs We Sing When We Fix Things. Inside are lyrics that would make you laugh on a louder day, but tonight they read like lullabies. Verses about screws that never quite match, and boards that want to warp, and hammers that prefer a soft tap to a show of strengths. In the margins, pencil chords curl like vines. The notes are unassuming. You could play them on a borrowed guitar without waking anyone. You could hum them to a loose screw, and it would tighten just to be part of the tune. A clock on the wall ticks with the gentlest insistence. It does not measure productivity here. It measures companionship. Every few minutes it clears its throat with a low, soft chime, as if to ask, "Are you comfortable? Do you need anything?" The answer is yes and no. Yes, you are comfortable. No, you need nothing more than this. You wander to a part of the room labeled Oddities Understood. A register lists curios from the Mystery Shack that once puzzled the town and then were folded into its bedtime stories. A mirror that shows you in your favorite sweater even when you are not wearing it. A compass that points toward the person who will make you laugh that day. A jar whose label has washed away but that still knows its own smell when the lid is cracked, which is the smell of campfire hair and sugared bread. Each entry ends with the same notation. Harmless, please return to shelf with care. There is a silver drawer pull near the floor shaped like a crescent moon. When you tug it, a shallow drawer slides out, revealing dozens of small envelopes with dates and first names on them. Night letters, the divider reads. These are notes people wrote to the town itself when the town seemed especially awake. Dear Gravity Falls, one begins. Thank you for the way the air felt on my face when I turned the corner and saw the lake. Dear Gravity Falls, says another. I was afraid of a memory today. Thank you for arranging for the smell of pine sap to undo the fear. The town answers in its own way. It returns the exact same air on another corner, the same sap on a different afternoon. The exchange need not be equal. It simply needs to be tender. At a small podium, a guest book lies open, not the kind that begs for extravagant remarks. The kind that simply likes to know who came through and breathed here. Some signatures are tidy. Some are a small field of flowers. Some are only initials crowned with a dot that looks like a star. You sign with your quietest hand. The ink dries without supervision. Before you leave, the archivist slides a folder your way. For lantern nights, they say. Their voice a soft coat. Inside, there are photocopies of old river rituals, sketches of lantern designs that never blew out, and a little map of the safest place to stand where the water can see you properly. The folder feels like a loan the room has made to you, interest-free, due back only if you stop needing it. You set the gloves back in their tray. You close the drawers with the reverence of a librarian and the cheer of a child who has put their toys in the right box. The archive room exhales with you. It will keep breathing down here whether you visit tomorrow or in a year or never again. It will not resent absence. It will only keep the town arranged, not alphabetically, but affectionately. At the door, you pause. On the jamb, someone carved a small pine long ago. The wood is darkened around it. You press your finger to that place, and the wood does the oldest thing wood can do. It remembers sunlight. You carry that upward up the stairs where the air is warmer, and the distance between pages and streets gets comfortable and thin. When you step outside, the town sounds lightly different, as if you learned a few words in its language and the town noticed. The lamps along the square seem to nod. You nod back, a little more fluent, a little more at ease. The river waits only a few blocks away. Lanterns sometimes choose this kind of night. Your pace finds the rhythm of people who know the route, even if it is their first time walking it. And because you have read about it, the walk will feel like returning to a tradition you somehow always had. The market of odd things opens when the ordinary market closes. Nothing spooky happens. Stalls are not replaced by shadows. The same tables push their legs into the same cobbles. The same strings of lights swing in the same breeze. But the goods relax into their truest selves as lanterns are lit. Daytime is for usefulness. Evening is for affection. The market does both with no contradiction. From a distance, you hear a hum. Not music, exactly. The combined contentment of objects that have waited all day to be seen by people who are not rushing. A stall of candles breathes a slow chorus. A crate of pocket watches ticks like polite rain. A basket of wooden toys lets out a tiny sigh each time a child lifts one and sets it back down gently. You start with the table of small lights. Each candle wears a label written in a hand that looks like it was taught by grandmothers. For quiet thoughts. For rooms that remember you. For windows on windy days. When the seller sees your hand hovering, they nod toward a low tray. Test them, they say. You strike a match. The flame is cordial. You cup it over a short candle in a jar. The wick takes fire and immediately looks at home. The scent that rises is not vanilla or lavender or anything you can name quickly. It smells like the first page of a good book and the last page of a very good day. You blow it out with thanks, and the smoke curls a little bow. At the next stall, objects that seem to have ideas of their own rest in tidy rows. A pencil that only writes kind lists. A teacup that prefers a particular corner of a table because the afternoon light is gentler there. A doorbell that plays a melody which shifts every season to match the birds. The seller explains none of this with fuss. They simply pat the items as one might pat a pet and say, they will do their best for you if you do your best for them. Further on, there is a table of thread, but these are not ordinary spools. Each is wrapped with a color you feel before you name. One is the deep red of a well-kept promise. One is the green of a morning in a place that forgives easily. One is the pale gold of a memory you do not mind telling. You buy a small length of blue that looks exactly like the river's calm on windless nights. The seller ties it around your wrist without asking for payment, because there are markets where price is measured in gratitude, and you have already paid. A booth near the square's edge sells recipes on cards, but the recipes are not for food. How to air out a heavy thought. How to keep a porch from feeling lonely. How to say goodbye without scaring yourself. Each card uses ingredients you can find in a house that has loved even a few summers. Lemon peel, old songs, an extra plate, a folded napkin, a note under a magnet that says, left for you. The instructions are short. The results take their time and work anyway. There is music, but no stage. A fiddler leans against the column of a street lamp and plays tunes that know not to startle. People do not clap when he stops. They breathe differently. He takes that as the compliment it is. A stall of notebooks invites you to touch the covers. Some are linen, some are leather, some are a mystery fabric that feels like the sleeve of a coat you loved when you were small. Inside, the paper is not white. It is the color of cream, or the color of the inside of bread, or the color of a candle shadow. You run a finger along a page and almost hear the sound your pen will make later when you tell it something simple that turns out to be important. The oddest things in the market are not odd because they misbehave. They are odd because they behave precisely like themselves. A silver spoon that always finds the honey in a jar no matter where it hides. A scarf that remembers the shape of your shoulders and refuses to fall. A clock that keeps perfect time and, when you are tired, slows 2 minutes around midnight so that sleep can catch up without anyone losing anything. The seller of the clocks winks. They are all within the margin of kindness, he says, tapping a face with a soft cloth. Children roam in a pattern parents can read without speaking. They move from the basket of marbles that roll toward friendship, to the jar of kites that fly in low winds, to the crate of library cards nobody uses anymore, but everybody likes to hold because the heft of them feels like an invitation. A girl with 2 missing teeth buys a tiny ceramic turtle that she promises to place on a windowsill at home so it can look at the moon. The potter wraps it in tissue that sounds like dry leaves. Some stalls sell services. A hand letterer writes words that look exactly like how you meant them. A map maker draws a route between now and next week and marks the places where you may wish to rest. A repairer of handles fixes the part of a favorite mug you cannot bear to throw away. They sand the broken edge until it feels like memory rather than accident. When they hand it back, the mug is whole in a new way, and the repairer nods as if to say, "This is what it wanted to become." You stop at a table lined with jars. Inside each is a small weather. Rain, short and gentle. Snow for window watching. Breeze that makes curtains billow. You choose a jar labeled "Afternoon Shade on a Porch, Portable." The seller advises, open it near someone you love and sit quietly. It will do the rest. You tuck it into your bag as carefully as you would tuck in a sleeping child. The market does not grow loud. Even when someone laughs, the laughter seems to understand that it has neighbors. A few stalls away, a baker sells loaves shaped like blankets. The crusts are stitched with sesame seeds that look like small constellations. People buy them not only because they are delicious, but because tearing them at the table feels like tucking in a house. You find a stall with a sign that reads, "Trades in near misses." On the table are little envelopes with descriptions that make people grin quietly. The letter you almost sent. The path you almost took. The conversation you almost started. The stall keeper, a person with eyes like calm lake, says, "You can trade one near miss for another. No questions. Sometimes it helps." You select the apology you almost made, slide it across, and receive the kindness you almost noticed. It is not magic. It is practice. You slip the envelope into your pocket with a promise to yourself to open it soon. By the fountain, a chalkboard lists the market's unspoken etiquette in 5 lines. Touch gently. Ask softly. Pay with money, time, or care. Carry what you take. Leave better than you arrived. You look around. Everyone is obeying without being told. It feels like a lullaby written into rules. You did not memorize them. You already knew them. As the night deepens, the stalls begin to pack slowly, not out of urgency, but out of respect for the hour to come. The market is generous with its own ending. The candle seller kisses each wick with a pinch of fingers. The clock tender winds each clock once. The notebook seller fans the pages so they can breathe while they sleep. The weather in jars cools itself to the temperature of patience. You leave with very little in your hands and very much in your pockets that you cannot weigh. A thread, a recipe, a small weather, a list you will write. You leave with the understanding that oddness is just specificity wearing its favorite sweater. You leave with your steps shaped by the market's easy rhythm, which is to say, your steps have learned again how to be a lullaby. Down the hill, the river brightens. Pinpoints of lantern light collect like stars that fell and decided to float. The market knows the river's schedule. It opens and closes in time with the water's long breathing. By the time you reach the path, the lanterns are ready to walk, and so are you. The river is never loud at night in Gravity Falls. It carries softness down its middle, like a secret it has promised to keep. On the bank, people gather the way people gather in kitchens before a meal. Nobody announces the order of things. It arrives on its own. Lanterns are handed out from boxes lined with felt, each one a small house of light. Paper sides with brushed-on pine silhouettes, a little roof of folded card, a wire handle that feels like a parent's hand when you are small and crossing a busy street. A table near the water offers pencils and strips of paper. The instructions are not posted, but everyone knows them. Write a name, write a wish, write a thank you, write a memory you are ready to let rest on water instead of on bone. Some people write 3 words. Some write none and simply breathe the words into the lantern when they cup it to light the candle. Children draw circles for faces, lines for laughing eyes, a dog with a heart above it. The river has learned to read all kinds of handwriting. You take a strip of paper and do not hurry. The night is long enough. The pencil makes a soft sound like a moth taking off. You do not write everything. You write just enough that your hands feel lighter. You tie the strip to a small string that dangles inside the lantern where the candle will warm the paper but never touch it. The warmth is part of the goodbye. The not touching is part of the safety. Gravity Falls excels at both. At the river's edge, a long plank extends like a simple pier. People step onto it one at a time or 2 at a time, depending on the shape of their memories. A volunteer kneels with a taper candle, touching fire to candle, and then lantern to water. The paper house of light settles into the river without protest. It finds its lane and sets out at the speed of thoughtfulness. 100 more follow. The current becomes a quiet parade. Lanterns have their personalities. Some drift straight and sure. Some zig in friendly curiosity and then zag back into their path. Some linger near the bank as if unwilling to leave the people who placed them. A volunteer with a long pole gently persuades these to join the procession. The pole carries no authority beyond kindness. That is enough. People do not clap. People do not cheer. They breathe together. When someone's lantern brushes someone else's, and the little paper houses say hello, the owners smile, and the river understands it has introduced 2 memories that needed company. Along the bank, the murmur of talk barely rises above the hush of water on stones. A grandmother tells a child about her first lantern night, many years ago when the moon was thinner, and the fireflies were a little bolder. The child listens, eyes round, hands folded around a lantern they will place in a moment, which already knows it will go bravely and come back as warmth in a pocket of sleep. From the far side of the river, frogs offer their low bass notes. A heron stands in the shallows like a punctuation mark at the end of a long, peaceful sentence. The trees lean in without stooping, giving the path a soft roof, not to enclose, only to bless. The stars above give their quiet approvals by remaining. The moon is a wet thumbprint on the sky, softened by a thin breath of cloud. You walk along the bank with the procession, not to watch your lantern, but to walk with it. The path is sanded by footsteps taken in care. Gentle lantern light makes a honeyed ribbon along the water. It does not blind. It does not call attention to itself. It lets faces be faces and hands be hands, and tears, when they come, be private and unashamed. At a bend where the current slows as if to listen, people stop. The soft congregation looks like a watercolor left in the rain, just long enough to get tender. The mayor, who is no louder at night than anyone else, clears their throat and says a few words that do not try too hard. We are grateful, they say. We are together. They add nothing else because nothing else is needed. The river picks up the words and makes them rounder and sends them along to people who did not come but will feel restful anyway without knowing why. A child asks, "Where do the lanterns go?" A parent answers, "They go where the river goes." The child nods, as if informed of the simplest and most significant law. Later, volunteers will collect the lanterns downstream and dry them and reuse what can be reused, repair what can be repaired, recycle what must be parted with. This has always been part of the ritual. Tradition without care is only habit. Gravity Falls tends to its traditions the way it tends to gardens, with hands, with time, with a thoroughness that never turns fussy. You kneel and touch the water with your fingertips. It is cool, but not cold. The touch teaches you two things in the same instant. The first is that the river is bigger than your worry. The second is that it is willing to carry a piece of your worry anyway for the distance you need, until you are ready to hold it again or not at all. Some nights, if fog chooses to visit, the lanterns look like stars caught in a friendly cloud. Some nights, if a breeze chooses to help, the lights make a sound that is not quite crackle and not quite murmur, something like parchment agreeing with itself. Tonight, the air is still. The lights are steady, the current is fluent. People begin to leave in ones and twos and then in handfuls. No one can say precisely when the ritual ends, because the ritual is a way of walking as much as it is a way of lighting. At the table, the pencils lie like patient minnows. The empty boxes wait for tomorrow. The plank dries itself in night air. The river continues its slow business of being a place where things go and a memory of things that have gone. On your way back toward town, the lantern glow stays with you, not as light on your skin, but as an easier breath in your chest. The path climbs gently. At the top of the rise, a building with a crooked roof lifts its silhouette against the stars. A porch light glows with the same tone as the lanterns, only with a hint of mischief, as if it sometimes flickers on purpose to see if anyone notices. The Mystery Shack is awake, though the hour is late. It is awake the way a campsite is awake after everyone has gone to their tents, and one person keeps the fire a little while longer, not to be dramatic, only to be kind. Inside, a hammer is thinking. A radio is whisper singing. A friend is humming a tune that never hurts. You are just in time to catch that tune and the person humming it at work. At midnight, the Mystery Shack is the gentlest machine in town. Not because it has no moving parts, but because it knows when to move softly. The front door keeps its squeak to a friendly squeal that sounds like a child's laughter from another room. The floorboards creak in tones that correspond to the phases of the moon. The neon sign rests its eye and glows like a sleepy ember. No one is alarmed by any of this. The shack does not sneak. It pads. Soos is here, not because he has to be, but because buildings like company, and he likes to be the company they keep. His workbench is a small country of tools, each with its own weather and customs. A screwdriver that hums bass notes. A wrench that believes in encouragement. A hammer that refuses to strike anything in a bad mood, and will wait forever for tempers to cool. Soos talks to them the way people talk to plants that have lived on the same windowsill for years. "Hey, little dude," he says to a bolt that has rusted itself into stubbornness. "We are going to help you retire." The bolt sighs and agrees. He wears a headlamp that never points into anyone's eyes. The beam moves like a finger tracing lines in a bedtime book. Tonight's project is not urgent. It rarely is at this hour. A shelf that dips at one end because it has held too many souvenirs shaped like theories. A fan that clicks the same way a knitting needle clicks when a grandmother is making something that will outlast a season. A radio that picks up a station only when the moon tilts a certain way, and then plays songs that sound like they have already been memories for 100 years. Soos works in rhythms. 10 minutes of fixing. 2 minutes of standing back with his arms folded, nodding. 3 minutes of humming a song that keeps wrenches listening. 1 minute of writing a note on a card that reads, "Hey, future us, here is what we did and why it made sense." The cards live in a tin labeled Mystery Shack Owner's Manual, though manual is too stern a word for the loose, heartfelt encyclopedia they form. When he is not looking, the cards make paper friends with the recipe cards for late-night cocoa. As he tightens a bracket, Soos tells the shack a story. Not one of the wild ones, not at this hour. He saves those for afternoons when the building needs a laugh. At midnight, he shares small victories. The soda machine stopped picking favorites. The porch step learned to be patient when people carry heavy things. The attic light figured out how to be bright without being rude. The shack creaks in places that mean, "I remember" and "thank you," and "you can leave that screw on the windowsill. I like it there." On a side table, a plate waits with 2 cookies and a note in familiar handwriting. "For the night shift," it says. Soos breaks off a piece and leaves a crumb on the workbench for luck. Luck is not superstition here. It is a shorthand for gratitude. He takes a sip from a mug that reads, "World's okayest repair wizard," and feels the warmth fan out through his arms, the strength of quiet hours doing what quiet hours do best. Sometimes an artifact on a wall glows a little, as if remembering a time when it was asked to be strange and deciding that tonight it prefers to be furniture. Soos pats it. "Good call," he says. The artifact dims, relieved. In a glass case, smaller curios rest as if tucked in by a careful hand. The labels are handwritten and tidy. Some are factual, some are affectionate. "Definitely a rock. Probably a bell. Spirit of a doorknob that learned boundaries." Guests read them during the day and giggle. At night, the labels seem like lullabies for objects that have been asked to be exciting for many hours and now want permission to be ordinary. A clock over the doorway winks past the half hour. Soos rolls his shoulders and checks the list on the chalkboard. Every item is written in big letters, and every checked box is checked with a flourish, like a small celebration with confetti that only pens know how to throw. Remaining, oil the fan, polish the display case glass, tighten the hinge on the door to the room that used to be scarier. He does these things with the care you might reserve for trimming a child's bangs or washing a favorite sweater. Precision without severity, purpose without edge. He hears footsteps on the porch. He does not startle. Only one person in town walks in that light, long rhythm at this hour. He opens the door before the knock because friendship means learning to meet someone halfway through their habits. "Hey, Wendy," he says. "Fire night?" She nods with a smile and tips her hat toward the hill. The brim cuts the porch light into a crescent on her cheek. "Got marshmallows?" she asks, already knowing the answer. Soos points at a shelf where a jar of them sits neither too high nor too low. "Got the good sticks?" she asks next. He opens a crate and lifts 2 sanded dowels that have learned not to splinter. The shack groans in a way that means, "Go on," as if it were a friend insisting you take a break. "Back in a bit," Soos tells the tools. The hammer nods. The wrench yawns. The radio switches to a song that promises to keep the rooms company. They step outside into air that has cooled itself like a pie on a windowsill. The yard smells faintly of wood and the day's feet. The night remembers everyone who came through and forgives the scuffs and the laughter and the questions. The shack's porch light blinks the slow blink of a lighthouse that knows the whole harbor is already home. Soos locks nothing. The door never needed it. The building does not worry when he leaves. It knows where to find him. It knows he will return with a new story in his pocket and sawdust on his sleeves and that good tiredness that means a person spent time making something better and nobody got hurt and the world is still capable of being maintained. He and Wendy cross the yard. The lanterns on the river shine a road between town and Skye. The path up the hill is the kind that was worn by choice, not force. Their steps fall into a picture they have walked many times and will walk many more. At the top, there will be a ring of stones and wood that remembers how to become ember without drama. There will be stars that hang like thumbtacks, pinning memories to the night. There will be stories told sideways like stacked kindling, so they burn slowly and warm everyone equally. The shack breathes once as if to tuck itself in. The radio plays soft. The neon sighs. The workbench dreams of the next screw it will turn without turning anyone away. Midnight turns toward morning a degree or two. The town adjusts its blanket. On the hill, a match will strike and not startle. A flame will rise and not rush. Two friends will sit and not solve anything they do not need to solve. They will warm their hands and their words. They will rest inside a circle no larger than it needs to be, and no smaller than anyone's comfort. And the pines will approve, because fires that are tended and gentleness that is shared are both the kinds of heat a forest can endorse. The hill above town is not tall. It is exactly high enough to show you what you need to see. The path curls up it like smoke that decided to be a trail. At the top, stones form a ring where many small fires have come to be changed into memory. The ground around it is soft with clean ash worked into earth by shoes and rain and time. The first time you come up here, someone will show you where to sit, so the wind is your friend. After that, the hill will remember your preferred spot and make it comfortable for you before you arrive. Wendy knows the hill like a page she has dog-eared. She drops her backpack with a quiet thump of long practice. Out come the things that make an evening a shape. A blanket that never minds sparks. A tin of cocoa that seems to refill itself because friends keep track. A little knife that was someone else's once and learned to enjoy cutting only string, and the ends of marshmallow bags. Soos arranges wood with the same attention he gives to fixing the shack. A small triangle that breathes, a larger log that will commit once it understands the plan, kindling that crinkles like paper telling the truth. The match flares and then rests. The fire begins like every good story begins, with a single intention. No panic, no show. It takes the wood politely. The flames find their legs and then remember they are not legs, they are tongues. They lick thoughtfully. They speak their syllables. Crackle, pop, whisper. The circle of stones glows as if a responsible moon has fallen there on purpose. Wendy holds her hands to the heat and names constellations without announcing them. There's the long canoe, she says, pointing with a stick. There's the chair for old bones, she adds, pointing somewhere else. There's the tiny fox sleeping, she finishes. And everyone who looks can see all of them, even if those names have never been part of any star chart. Names are agreements up here, not arguments. You agree because agreeing feels like placing a quilt on your own shoulders. They talk, but never to fill space. The wind has a turn. The fire has a turn. The silence has a turn. Soos tells a story about a screw that would not let go until he told it a joke he learned from an 8-year-old. Wendy remembers a time the cable lift stalled and she gave out blankets from her bag until everyone decided waiting was almost the point. You add something small and everyone nods in that slow way that means we heard more than your words. When it is time for marshmallows, the bag opens with that puff that is always more than air. Sticks are passed. Flames are courted. The marshmallows brown in the tone of old paper, the exact shade that smells like safety. Nobody burns theirs on purpose here. At this hour, even mischief comes in soft edges. Someone sandwiches a marshmallow between 2 cookies and laughs without teeth showing because laughter can be shy and still count. Below, the town lays its lights out like playing cards. The bell tower is a quiet punctuation, a period that means we are complete for now. The river's lanterns have thinned to a few stubborn lights that enjoy dawdling. The Mystery Shack's sign is a mild neon heartbeat. The library's windows glow in pairs as if the building himself is blinking slowly at a dream. You can see the road that will be morning, but you are not on it yet, and that is lovely. Wendy tips her hat back and tells a scary story in a tone that makes sure nobody is scared. In her version, the creature in the woods is shy, and the footsteps on the path are people who got lost and then found a picnic. When she does a voice, it is a little deeper or a little higher, never sharp. When she gets to the part where the door creaks, she says, "And then the door creaked." And the truth of creaking is sufficient. The fire approves by sending a single spark up that dies quickly into the night like a star that changed its mind. Sometimes people join the circle. Sometimes it is only 2. Tonight, a pair of hikers sits with their backs to their packs and their feet toward the fire. They listen with the kind of attention that uses no eyebrows. They pass around a tin of walnuts, and the tin comes back to them with more in it than when it left because someone added almonds, someone added raisins, and someone else added 2 chocolate squares that broke into 4 like a kindness that multiplies when handled. Wendy's hair smells like wood and cold air. Soos's sleeves smell like oil and good intentions. The blanket smells like a story told last week that is not finished. The night smells like pine. And if it ever stops smelling like pine, the town will stop and check on itself. You breathe and the hill breathes, and for a few minutes the world is no bigger than it needs to be. The biggest thing here is a sky that minds its own business while minding you. When the fire has done its middle work and eased into its later work, Wendy takes out a little notebook. She does not write often. She writes well, short lines, a list of names of people who came by. 2 ideas for how to make the next fire even easier to start. A drawing of the ring of stones with a note that says, "Move this one slightly left. It will make the circle feel truer." She closes the notebook and puts it away. Not everything that is good has to be permanent to be real. They let the fire finish without urging it to be dramatic. No last log, no big send-off. They spread the embers like careful bakers leveling batter. The glow becomes a bed. The stones hold their heat for the next hour to keep the hill warm for the next person who finds it. A kettle of water hisses with the last breath and then is still. Cups are rinsed. The blanket is folded, but not too precisely. Order up here is a soft thing, a kind of friendliness rather than a performance. On the way down, the path is the path, and your steps are your steps. The town is the town, and because of the fire, it seems to welcome you with a little extra affection, as if you had done a small chore it meant to do for itself. The pines along the trail release a few drops of resin into the air that smell like clean hands. The lanterns on the river wink goodnight. The bell tower keeps its peace. The Mystery Shack's porch light spreads its glow into a rectangle on the ground like a doormat made of light. Back at the shack, Soos hangs the marshmallow sticks in their place and sets the cocoa tin where it always stands. Wendy taps the door jamb twice, and the building taps back with the creak that matches her rhythm. They part ways with that brief hug people give when there is nothing to fix and nothing to fear. Up on the hill, the stones cool slowly. In the morning, someone will pass and see the faint circle and feel safe without knowing why. You head home along streets that you could walk with your eyes half closed and, in fact, do. Your door key turns with a friendly click. Your room has kept your shape. The air holds the smell of wood smoke that has always meant now. You lie down, and the hill lies down under you, and the river pulls a blanket over both of you, and the market tucks a list into your pocket that reads, rest, return, repeat. If you dream, it will be of a small flame that never asks more than you can give it, and always gives more than it takes. If you wake in the night, the town will be there, breathing at the same pace, willing to start the lullaby again at any line you like. Because in Gravity Falls, every chapter ends by learning how to begin calmly, and every beginning knows how to end without hurry. The bedroom under the slanted roof keeps secrets kindly. Its window is a square of night that changes shades the way a page turns without a sound. Between two beds, a little lamp glows the color of warm butter. On one bed, a notebook rests, its spine softened by many evenings. On the other, a tangle of yarn waits for a sweater that already knows it will fit. The twins are never loud at this hour. Their whispers travel like paper boats, light enough to float, sturdy enough to carry a thought. Dipper sits cross-legged with a pencil that has learned what his hand means before the words arrive. He sketches small things first, an acorn cap, a moth wing, the way the attic rafters cross like quiet roads. Once the pencil remembers the day, it moves on to bigger gentleness, a path through the woods that curves the way kindness curves, a map of Main Street with stars drawn over the lamps that stayed on a little longer for someone who needed late light. He writes in tidy lines that sometimes tilt, like a hammock gently holding letters. Today, the bell had 2 hours, he notes. One for clocks, one for hearts. Below that, he adds a box for a code only he and his sister would know. The code doesn't hide anything dangerous. It hides small treasure. The joke Soos told that made milk laugh in the glass. The exact way a lantern's reflection doubled itself on the river and then forgave itself for not being perfect. He circles the code key and draws an arrow to a doodle of a pine cone wearing sunglasses. The pine cone looks pleased. Across the room, Mabel hums the sound of a rainbow. She measures loops of yarn against her arm with a ritual only she understands. Stretch, snip, tuck, smile. Her sweater tonight is not loud. It is a slow field of soft colors, blue like the river, green like the market stall tablecloths, cream like the inside of a fresh loaf torn at dinner. She adds a tiny stitched heart at the cuff, not for show, for memory. When she slides the finished sleeve over her hand, it looks like a promise kept. Write the part about the mailbox blinking, she says, eyes bright. That was a thing. Dipper nods and adds a line. Mailbox practiced winking, acknowledged our existence, 10/10. He draws a small rectangle with eyelashes. Mabel giggles into her blanket, the sound of a little bell that rings once and knows when to stop. On the nightstand, a small jar of glow stars warms the room with the memory of past ceilings. Mabel shakes the jar once, softly, respectfully, and then spreads a few on the page margins of the journal. They stick like gentle punctuation. Stories need stars, she says. Dipper agrees. He adds small compass marks in the corners of the page. N is for nowhere we need to be. A is for easy does it. S is for sleep soon. W is for we're okay. They take turns telling a day back to itself. Mabel starts with the river. The lantern I made was for the plant I forgot to water, she admits, eyes wide, honest as cotton. I said sorry, and I think the lantern told the plant for me, because the leaves looked less mad when I got home. Dipper adds, plants accept apologies written in water. He draws leaves with relaxed shoulders. They remember the market, the thread that matched the sky, the recipe card for airing out heavy thoughts. Works, Mabel writes, double underline. The stall where near misses trade themselves into second chances. Mabel pulls a folded envelope from her pocket. The kindness you almost noticed. She opens it now. Inside, one sentence written in spare, careful letters. Someone moved the stone on the hill a little to the left, so circles feel truer. She smiles so softly it's almost a yawn. We were there, she whispers. We noticed. Dipper dates the note and tapes it into the journal with a piece of washi tape decorated with tiny acorns. A flashlight rests on the windowsill, beam turned down to the lowest bravery. They click it once and press a hand over the lens so the light spills like milk. On the ceiling, their fingers make gentle constellations. A sleepy bear, a kite caught and happy. Two tiny boats tied together with nothing but trust. That one's us, Mabel says. Dipper doesn't argue. He adds the boats to the page with a dotted line between them. Permanent tether, he writes. They breathe together for a few counts, in like drawing the lake, out like smoothing the blanket. Dipper flips to the back, where the journal keeps lists for later, places to visit when morning is kind, questions to ask the archivist that feel like compliments, people to thank soon so the thanks doesn't go stale. In the margin, Mabel writes in loops, make cookies for the night shift. She doodles a cookie with a bite missing and an arrow, you. There is a page labeled Things We're Not Afraid of Tonight. They add to it, taking turns. Shadows that are just furniture getting dramatic. Wind that learned to say our names gently. Silence. The list doesn't complete itself. It doesn't need to. It exists the way a porch light exists. Enough. Beneath that page is another titled, Things We Will Be Brave About Later. It is short on purpose. Apologies that have waited too long. Asking for help before we're tired. Letting go of a thing that keeps trying to leave. They close the journal over these like tucking in a child who fell asleep mid-sentence. The book knows it has time. Mabel slides her new sweater over the journal, a blanket for a book. Dipper places his pencil on top like a roof beam. They switch off the lamp. The window holds a square of night that is more invitation than darkness. On the sill, the flashlight becomes a tiny moon, then a star, then the idea of a star. The house shifts, as houses do when they decide to breathe at the same pace as the people inside them. Good night, Ma, Mabel says. Dipper answers, please bring muffins, and then adds, but if not, bring whatever you can. We'll make it enough. The attic rafters creak a yes. The pines outside sign the same with stillness. Sleep arrives with its shoelaces already untied. The journal keeps the page open under the sweater and learns the trick of dreaming, letting pictures move without anyone pushing them. If the night is a teacher, it is the kind that knows you already did the homework by showing up kindly. In the morning, the book will be heavier by the weight of the rest they put into it. That is how good journals work here. They store gentleness like grain in a bin to be used when the day forgets it has enough. There are many trails in these woods. Some are for boots that like puddles. Some are for bicycles that have learned manners. Some are for deer that step like cellists. And then there is the forest path of echoes, which is for voices that know how to say a thing once and then hear it come back friendlier. You find its trailhead not by sign, but by feeling. The sense that the trees have leaned in closer together, not to whisper about you, but to whisper with you. The ground is a soft weave of needles and leaves. Your steps make the small sound of pages turning. The air tastes green. Somewhere ahead, water talks to stones with the patience of long friendships. The first rule of the echo path is that you do not test it. The path dislikes quizzes. You speak to it the way you speak to a cat that has decided you are acceptable. Good morning, you say. The path makes a little version of your voice from somewhere further along, not a copy, but a harmony. Good morning. It is serene, lower, as if your words have put on a comfortable sweater and found a chair by a window. The second rule is that you carry out what you carry in, including thoughts that tried to hitchhike for free. The path is good at refusing to keep what does not belong to it. If you tell it a worry that is not yours, the echo comes back empty, and your pockets remind you to return it to the right person gently, or, if it has no rightful owner, to set it in the river at lantern time. You walk, and your breath becomes a metronome for trees that don't need one, but enjoy the company. Birdsong threads through the pine, thin silver stitches making the canopy, a quilt you can feel even from the ground. A chipmunk leaps across the trail and becomes a comma in your sentence, reminding your steps to pause and smile. You try something small. Thank you, you say to a shaft of light that has chosen your shoulder. Far away, the woods say, thank you back with a hush. The echo is not a mirror. It's a translation into forest. It means, we heard you, you're welcome, stay. You say a name you love. The path repeats it very softly and adds a leaf falling at the end, like a period that wishes you rest. Where the trail curves, there is a log that's been a bench for so long it has learned the language of backs. You sit. The echo sits 2-3 trees away, as if to give you space while staying nearby. The bench smells like years. In its bark, you see initials that are not carving, only moss forming letters that happen to matter to someone. You ace them with a finger, and the echo brings you the feeling of a hand held long ago, then lets it go so new hands can be held today. A little further, the path rises and your voice doesn't bother to follow. It rolls back downhill and comes to rest around your ankles like fog. Careful, the echo says, but it means I am with you. You step carefully because careful is not fear here, it's respect. A root arcs from soil to air and back, a waking snake that is only wood. You thank it for teaching you to lift your toes. It thanks you for learning quickly. The path of echoes is also a path of answers that don't try to be answers. You say, I don't know, to a puzzle you brought with you out of habit. The echo gives you, I don't know, and then a woodpecker's tap, which is the forest's way of saying sometimes you learn by knocking in a pattern until the hollow places show you where to build. You don't find a solution. You find not hurrying. It is just as good and wears better. At a clearing, the wind arrives as if it were invited and right on time. It borrows your sentence and makes it a little taller, shakes it like a blanket to fold it neatly. Then it sets it back down on your shoulders, warm. You hear someone else's echo cross yours, 2 hikers talking in low voices about soup. The path keeps confidences. Their words soften into shapes that look like steam and mean comfort exists. Children love this trail because it makes their jokes sound wiser, and their questions sound like brave poems. A small boy up ahead tries it. What's under the mushrooms? The echo brings back a list of possibilities with the rustle of leaves, cities, umbrellas, secrets that like damp, families, fairy furniture, approved for sitting only. He gasps in delight and lifts the edge of a cap gently, just moss, which is also a kind of city. He nods, satisfied that the world is holding more than it shows at once. There's a place where the path crosses a stream on stones at like ellipses. You hop, and the echo hops ahead, landing each sound just before your foot does, as if the forest is spotting you. On the far bank, a small sign carved into a fallen branch reads, "Leave a word, take a word." You lean in. The words already there look like they've been brushed in with light. Begin. Enough. Gentle. After. You add here. The echo returns it in the tone of a lullaby. When you reach the old cedar with a door in its trunk, not a real door, only suggestion, a friend of the path has left a tiny welcome mat. You kneel and place your hand on the bark. In your palm, the tree sets a word you forgot to remember. You don't hear it. You feel it, like putting on a coat that fits exactly. Later, when someone asks how the walk was, you will answer with a calm you did not have when you started. That is the word working. No need to name it. On the return loop, you try one more sentence. I am tired in a good way. The echo comes back with an extra blanket in it. Good way. The path narrows, then widens, the way a conversation does when it reaches the part where everyone understands. Your footfalls match yours coming and going, two hands clapping once. The echo stops echoing when you stop speaking, not as a punishment, but as a courtesy. Silence is also a language here, the kind that lets birds say their names to morning. At the trailhead, you turn and say, "Thank you for listening." The forest answers with the pine cone dropping somewhere into soft. That is as loud as it gets when it says, "You're welcome." You carry the echo with you out of the trees, not in your ear, but in your walking. People in town will notice, but only if they're looking for it, that your steps are lined up with the day now, not sideways to it. The path does that. It returns voices to bodies at the pace of kindness. The sign that isn't a sign nods from its knots. Come back whenever you need to hear yourself say the right thing once, and once is enough. In daylight, the lake is a mirror that has learned humility. It reflects what it can, ignores what it must, and never corrects the sky. At night, it is a keeper of soft films, scenes it screens only for those who sit quietly on the shore with their hands open and their expectations tucked into their shoes. The dock stretches out like a careful finger, pointing at the part of the water that knows stories best. Its boards are silvery with use and moon. Sit on the edge and feel your heels tap the surface. Note, note, rest. The lake answers with concentric, gentle no's. No rush, no noise, no need to be more than you are. You listen. The frogs agree in bass. There is a tradition in town, older than anyone can pin down. If you want to see a good memory again, you do not chase it. You ask the lake to choose. You say, "Show me something kind," or "Show me a lesson that didn't bruise," or "Show me a summer that knew what it was." The lake considers it is not a vending machine. It is a librarian. It brings you a reel it trusts you to hold. The water stills in a circle at your feet, the way a cat makes a circle before it sleeps. Inside that circle, the light changes shade. A picture flickers up from below like a fish curious enough to bite the air. You might see small hands sprinkling breadcrumbs to ducks that are too polite to crowd, or a first, shy dance at a lantern-lit carnival, or two friends fixing a wobbly table while telling it compliments so it has the courage to stand well. If the memory belongs to you, it will fit you like a hat you forgot was yours. If it belongs to someone else, it will mind their privacy by blurring the edges until the kindness is what you notice, not the faces. The lake is good at this. It knows how to honor specifics without trapping anyone in them. Rowboats nap along the shore, their ropes looped in figure eights that look like infinity taking a walk. When you push one into the water, it wakes without grumbling. Oars slide into locks with the satisfying click of two parts that enjoy working. You dip and pull, a motion older than most worries. The boat makes the smallest possible argument with the lake, then apologizes in ripples. In the middle, everything loosens. The dock is a line, the shore a parenthesis, the sky a story continued. You ship the oars and let drift do what drift does. The boat becomes a cradle grown to your size by a universe that cares about scale. Your breath finds the lake's pace, in like swell, out like settle. The water offers you pieces of old summers and new evenings, like a friend laying photographs on a table and waiting for you to choose which one to talk about. You see a picnic, paper plates, laughing knees, a checkered blanket that knows how to attract ants but politely asks them to keep to the corners. You see a storm that arrived gentle, one big drop every minute, a rhythm you could set a heart to. You see a winter day when the edge froze and the lake said, "Let's be cautious." And everyone agreed without feeling scolded. Sometimes the lake remembers things with shapes. A long shadow passes under the boat and becomes a dragon only if you need it to be. Otherwise, it is just the old eel everyone knows. By the way, it changes its mind 3 times before turning. On certain evenings, a ring of bubbles rises and the lake says, "Someone is laughing below." And you smile without asking what's funny because the feeling is enough. The town tells tall tales about a creature who lives here, but at night the tales stretch out and nap. If something old swims close, it does so for company, not spectacle. The dock keeper keeps a rule book the size of a postcard. 3 rules only. Wear the life jacket in wind. Pick up what you brought. Tell the water thank you. People obey and add a 4th rule in practice. Speak as if your voice might drip into the lake and be part of it forever. It will. Sound does that. The frogs have known all along. The best bench faces west, where sunsets happen even when you're not there to witness them. Sit there after dark anyway. The lake takes longer to darken than the sky, like a child staying awake to hear one more line of a story. When it finally exhales into full night, the stars appear in its face first, then above, twin quilts, stitched by different grandmothers who shared patterns. You dip your fingers. The temperature is a paragraph that starts cool and ends with a clause about comfort. The water lines your hand with a boundary you didn't know you needed, the outline of where you end and the lake begins. A boundary that doesn't feel like separation, only like definition. You shake droplets back and they go willingly, small messengers reporting that you are well. Boats come in with the sort of silence that follows good conversation. Ropes find cleats. Boards accept feet. On shore, the dockkeeper stacks oars the way a librarian stacks returned books. Spines align, stories intact. Good night, people say, to water here, not as a metaphor, as a habit. The lake hears and files the greeting under, "We belong to each other in gentleness." You stay a bit longer because staying is part of leaving. It makes the leaving rounder. The lake shows you one more picture without asking. It is you, but smaller, kneeling to tie a shoelace that has absolutely no intention of behaving. Older hands appear, someone you love, and finish the knot without a speech about how to do it. The memory ends there. The boat rocks once like a nod. Back at the path, you look over your shoulder. The lake keeps the reflection of you walking away for a second after you turn. Then it lets you go and returns to its other work. You thank it with your inside voice. It answers with a coolness the air didn't have a second before. A gift, sealed. You do not need a telescope tonight. You need a blanket and a neck willing to lean back. The hilltop or the shack's roof or the open patch behind the library will do, anywhere the trees part enough to lay the sky down where you can reach it with your eyes. Ford's old star maps live in the archive. Lines crisp, notes careful, patience pressed into paper. But out here, the maps are in motion, and the notes play themselves. The sky speaks, not in sentences, but in small, precise points that become stories when your breath connects them. Start with the bright one that never argues. Let it anchor you the way a friend's front porch light anchors a late walk. From there, reach to the left for a pair that always arrives together. That's the ladle with nothing in it. A reminder that usefulness isn't only about holding. Sometimes it's about pointing. From the ladle, a gentle arc leads to the sleeping fox. You can see its tail if you soften your eyes, a smear of light, like a long exhale. Someone beside you points out a line of stars that climbs and then rests. The stepladder, they say, for getting up to change the moon's bulb. You grin because, of course, the moon uses a very large bulb, and of course, it burns out sometimes, and of course, someone local knows how to fix it. Breathe in slowly as if you are counting the small gaps between stars. Breathe out slowly as if you are filling those gaps with something warm. Let your shoulders set down the day. The grass receives them. It has been practicing this catch forever. Meteor showers come some nights, like careful handwriting in motion. One line, another, a comma. You will miss some while you blink, and that will feel unfair for a heartbeat, and then feel like the point. Not everything wants to be collected. Much wants to pass through and be admired for its passing. When a streak burns long, the crowd murmurs in one long chord. You add your note. The sky hears. It has ears everywhere that are also eyes. Point with your chin to a cluster that looks like a question mark softened at the edges. The curiosity, someone names it. Toward the east, 5 lights know how to make a house shape if you give them a door. So give them one, and then imagine the door open with golden light and the smell of cinnamon. The house is right above the shack. Even the sky knows its address. If you prefer more official names tonight, borrow them gently. Find the hunter, but think of him putting down his bow and resting on a stump, listening to a friend's story. Find the swan, but think of her tucking her head and sleeping on a slow river that doesn't need guarding. Find the queen in her chair and assume she's writing letters to people who think of her without knowing why. The old myths quiet themselves when you do this. They like seeing themselves taken care of. A soft breeze turns the pages of the night, so the constellations move a little. You're not dizzy. The planet is dancing, and you're excellent at letting your feet follow. The pines frame everything with a dark lace. Their tips prick holes in the sky, and more stars leak through, cheerful as buttons in a sewing tin. There is a game people play on blankets. Make a brand new constellation and tell its use. A child points and makes the muddy boot, useful for finding puddles that clean you. A teenager invents the unsent text, useful for letting you sleep anyway. An elder traces the strong cup of tea, useful for conversations that need honesty and sugar. You name the spare key, useful for getting back to yourself when you've stepped outside for a minute. Somewhere below, the lake is wearing the sky again. You can feel it rather than see it. A doubling of the stars, a gentle greed the night encourages. A moth drifts across the edge of your vision, an unreadable letter from the lanterns to the moon. An owl writes a single line in the margin and dots it with silence. Ford once wrote a note in the margin of a star chart, so the archivist says, that read, "Constellations are just introductions. We do the rest. Out here, you understand. The stars started, and you answer with who you are tonight. A person with a blanket and a better breath, and nothing urgent in their hands. The sky appreciates being met halfway. Try this, the group leader says, voice low. In for 4, each number a small star. Hold for 4. The square of the shack's warm window. Out for 6. A slow shooting star. You do, and the muscles at the back of your heart put down their tools and agree to come inside. The night doesn't clap. It nods, which is more useful. A cloud passes like a person moving between you and a lamp. Polite, quick, apologetic. The stars wait. They are the best at waiting. When they return all at once in a way that feels like a surprise party that you actually wanted, where everyone brought precisely the right kind of cake. Quiet cake, cut into thin pieces, served on paper plates with the constellations printed in soy ink. It gets late, which here means the air adds one more blanket to your shoulders, and the ground lifts its chin to meet your spine just where it needs support. One by one, people roll to their sides and curl like commas, pauses, not endings. Someone snores a little, and the hill decides to harmonize rather than shush. The trees continue to say nothing in a very helpful way. Before you go, choose one star to be yours for a week, not forever. Forever is too much pressure for stars and people. Just a week. Tell it your plan. To notice when water tastes especially good. To say yes to help faster. To keep one pocket free so surprises have somewhere to land. The star blinks because that is what light does when it wants you to feel seen. If it clouds over tomorrow, your star will still know. That is the deal stars offer. Seen or unseen, they continue. You fold the blanket in halves until it becomes the size of a book of poems. You tuck it under an arm and stand. Your knees and the ground part friends. The town is below practicing sleep. The bell tower does its late check-in with the hour and then promises to handle the rest. You walk down carefully because careful keeps you in the story. The constellations stay behind and also come along, which is a trick only night and memory can do without contradiction. At your door, you turn once more to the sky and say, "Thank you for the company." A dim star near the horizon flares microscopically brighter. Maybe a meteor brushed it. Maybe it was always that bright, and you only now learned how to look. Either way, the thanks lands somewhere up there and stays. The universe likes to collect good words. It files them under reasons to keep expanding. The carnival in Gravity Falls does not arrive with fanfare. It arrives like a yawn that turns into a smile. By dusk, strings of bulbs glow warm as peaches. Cotton candy clouds spin themselves into small, friendly storms. The Ferris wheel hums a slow circle, a clock that measures delight instead of minutes. Tickets rustle in a pocket like leaves. You step onto the path, and the ground is a braided rug of footsteps taken kindly. The games have lowered their voices for the night. No one shouts, no one rushes. Every booth seems to know bedtime is coming and offers its fun the way a friend offers a blanket. Here, this will do. At the ring toss, the bottles are not crowded. They stand apart like neighbors giving each other space to breathe. Wendy leans at the counter, hat tipped back, grin as easy as the rings she hands out. "Toss soft," she said. They like soft. You do, and a ring lands with a sound like a glass, agreeing to be part of a table. A small bell dings once, not to call attention, but to say, nice. Down the lane, a duck pond blinks with little wooden beaks. Children fish with tiny rods, each hook catching something on purpose, never disappointment. Every prize is the right prize. A felt star, a tiny book of blank pages, a button that reads, kind on purpose. A toddler claps for someone else's win. The ducks salute by bobbing. The carousel keeps its secrets and its rhythm. Horses lift and set themselves down as if they're practicing bowing. A swan with a long, polite neck floats past, feathers lacquered in patience. The music is the sound of bake sale pianos, tuned enough, waltz enough, lullaby enough. You choose a bench and ride without moving, noticing how the inside world rotates around the outside world without complaint. Someone waves as they pass, and you wave back, and the waves meet in the middle and turn into something like a shared nap. Food happens quietly here. A funnel cake cracks like thin ice and then melts, as if it were made of thank yous. A paper cone of popcorn keeps a few kernels aside for later, as though it knows midnight is a time for one last handful. Lemonade comes in cups that fit hands, edges soft, lids snug, sweetness dialing itself down to match the hour. The vendors chat the way porch swings chat, slow, forward, back. A booth offers jars of glow, not bright, just a little. Firefly light saved for rainy pockets. You pick one up and feel the hum of a small kindness that will come in handy. The seller adds a handwritten tag for finding keys, for reading one more page, for not stubbing toes. You hang it on your bag and feel your night lean slightly toward grace. Near the center, a tent holds the Museum of Almost. Inside are shelves of near misses that have been granted dignified display. A cake that sunk in the middle, but tasted like a holiday anyway. A kite tail tied wrong that still flew because the wind liked it. A photo with a thumb in the corner that made the memory warmer. People file past and nod the nod that means, I've been there, and thank you for being tender to this. A pair of jugglers keeps 3 apples in the air and then, politely, lowers them one at a time into a basket, as if putting a baby down to sleep. A magician makes a coin disappear into someone's sleeve and then checks for permission before retrieving it. A fortune teller reads palms with the confidence of a person who knows the best future is often just a good bedtime and breakfast in the morning. You will be okay, she says, especially if you remember to sit sometimes. The Ferris wheel is a moon machine from close-up. Each car carries 2 people and a stack of soft moments. You climb in. The bar comes down like a hug. The car rocks and then steadies. As you rise, the town unrolls. The bell tower like a button on a warm coat. The river like a ribbon, remembering a gift. The mystery shack, like a friend who left the light on for you. At the top, the wheel pauses. The car floats. Your breath floats with it. Somewhere below, someone laughs in a key that matches your heartbeat, and you're both instruments in the same song for a second. When your car lowers, a kid hands you a paper crown cut with star holes. They're free, she says. They make you see good things. You put it on, and somehow she is right. The bulbs look braver. The sky looks closer. The faces in the crowd look like they've all just remembered the same nice thing. Games close themselves gently. The ring toss stacks its glass. The ducks swim into a wooden night. The carousel sighs and leans on its own music. Final call's not a call, it's a lull. People drift toward the exit, holding prizes that will look even better on their shelves tomorrow morning. A janitor pushes a broom that makes sounds like rain. Confetti collects in corners like shy stars. At the gate, you turn back. The Ferris wheel gives one last blink, a courtesy blink, a see you again blink. The ticket booth tallies not money, but moods, and declares the evening a success. More smiles than frowns, more full hearts than empty hands, an abundance of gentle. The carnival doesn't leave, it just sleeps. The field breathes, the bulbs cool. The signs fold their arrows. In a few nights, the lights will glow again and everything will hum. Tonight, everything hums slower. You step onto the road that knows your steps. The town waits a few blocks away, preparing its last gift of the season. A night of goodbyes that feels like returning. You walk toward it with fair dust on your sleeves and a crown punching tiny stars into the dark. The bells of the game booths ring once in your memory, then stop at exactly the right time. It is the kind of ending that knows not to slam the cover of the book. It closes it with two hands and a smile. The last night of summer never pretends it isn't the last. It just decides to be kind about it. The air is the temperature of good tea. The wind goes nowhere in particular. Windows glow in pairs like eyes that are happy to see you. In the attic room, the twins pack without hurrying. Mabel rolls sweaters the way a baker rolls dough, soft, patient, certain. She tucks small notes into each. For chilly bus air. For surprise picnics. For when you need courage that looks like color. Dipper closes the dream journal and wraps it in a scarf as if a book could catch cold. He slides his pencil into the spine, the ritual that means we'll pick up where we left off. They make a list on the last clean page. Things to bring back next time. A new recipe for Soos. A sketch of the lake's polite eel. A better joke for the bell tower. A thank you card for the path of echoes that taught them to talk softly to themselves. Mabel adds glitter to the page and blows gently. Stars, then none, then a few. As if she could teach the glitter to act like the night sky. Downstairs, the shack keeps itself busy so it won't make a scene. Soos checks the hinges with his eyes, and then with his hands, and then with his heart. He hangs a small sign on the counter that reads, "Caretaker on duty, always." He fills a jar with extra marshmallows and writes "emergency" on the label, then adds "fun kind." The radio finds a song that has no words and all the right feelings. It will be playing when the door swings tomorrow and for many tomorrows after that. Wendy arrives with a bag of snacks and an extra hat. She trades the hat to Mabel for a sticker that says "Certified Friend." They do not talk about goodbyes. They talk about rope swings, and if the constellations look like the same things to everyone last night, and how the hill likes the stone slightly to the left now. Dipper hands her a folded page, a map of the town with stars drawn where they laughed hardest. She slides it into her back pocket like a talisman. In the kitchen, Grunkle Stan pretends to read a newspaper he hasn't looked at for 10 minutes. The headline is old news. He peeks over the top and clears his throat. "Don't forget your..." He stops. They haven't forgotten anything. They never do. He lowers the paper. "Okay. Good." He taps the table once as if he's patting the town. "Okay." Mabel hugs him in a way that compresses time into a very good sandwich. Dipper joins, and the three of them stand a while, and the newspaper slides to the floor without complaint. Out back, Ford checks lines on the boat. Though he checked them already, though he always will. The deck is clean. The lanterns along the rail have new wicks. In the cabin, a notebook waits with the first page titled, "Journeys We Don't Have to Prove." He sees the twins and lifts a hand. "We're not leaving you," he says before they can worry. "We're only going where stories go between chapters." Dipper nods because he understands books. Mabel nods because she understands chapters are excuses to add stickers. Dinner is a picnic out of habit and gratitude. pie tastes like a last night should taste. Familiar, slightly warm, crumbly enough to make everyone laugh at their own shirts. Someone spreads a blanket on the floor even though there's a table. Floor picnics are for marking bedtime hours. They eat and retell, not the big adventures, the small ones. The jarred weather that made the porch cool one afternoon. The pencil that only made kind lists. The letter in the post office drawer that will wait years for its owner and never get lonely. Before dessert finishes, the bell tower takes a breath and rings in the heart hour one last time this summer. The sound strolls into the kitchen and sits down. People straighten without stiffening. Eyes find eyes. Forks rest. I'm glad, someone says. No one asks. Of what? They all know the answer. Of this and you and now. There are things to do after dishes because there always are. Soos shows Dipper where the new toolbox lives and where it always will. In case the shack needs company with a screwdriver, he says. Wendy teaches Mabel the not-so-secret knot that keeps ribbons on suitcases and promises to text a photo of the knot every time she uses it. Ford adds 2 smooth stones to the twins' pockets, one from the river, one from the lake. For weighing down tricky days, he says. Or for skipping, should a day need skipping. The lantern walk happens again. Quieter, just family, a friend or two, the river, and the habit of saying things the water knows how to carry. The twins write, "Thank you for being ours" on a strip, and tie it inside one lantern. They write, "We'll be back" on another, then cross it out. Then write, "We never leave," and nod because that feels truer. Lanterns settle on the river like yeses. Back at the shack, backpacks lean by the door with the confidence of dogs who trust their people. The sky puts on its loudest quiet. Cicadas low, the soft click of the porch light's pull chain. A floorboard telling the truth about someone heading upstairs for one last look around. Mabel tucks a sweater into a drawer and then pulls it out again. "For the road," she says. Dipper checks the journal's ribbon bookmark one more time, then laughs at himself and closes the drawer over the laugh so it will be here when he returns. Goodbyes, pronounced or quietly passed, weave into the house like threads. "I appreciate you," Soos tells the cash register, and it dings a small, bashful ding. "Eat something green," Wendy tells the twins, and they promise with their fingers crossed but not lying. "Tell the sky we said hi," Stan tells the bus. "Take notes if the sky says anything surprising," Ford adds. The bus is not here yet. They tell it anyway. When headlights finally sweep the drive, the pines do not shiver. They steady, tall as towers, gentle as cousins. Hugs happen in the middle of sentences so they can finish in someone's arms. No speeches. A few instructions that are really love in a helpful hat. 2 steps at the top. Watch the first curb. Sleep if you can. If you can't, look at the morning coming. The doors hiss. The twins climb. Seats receive them. Through the window, faces and hands and hats and eyes, and one lantern in the shack's window holds still so they burn into memory without fuss. The bell tower keeps the second hand slow for just long enough that everyone gets to see what they need to see. The bus pulls out. Gravel crunches, then smooths. The road unfolds its ribbon. Behind you, the town does not shrink. It settles in like a cat on a couch and promises to be exactly where you left it when you come back. On board, Mabel slides the journal onto both their knees. Dipper opens to a blank page that already knows the first word. Home. He writes it. She draws a heart with a road in it. The engine purrs, eyelids lower. The page will wait, as every good page in this town knows how to do. Outside, the mystery shack flips its porch light to lantern. Soos tidies the counter and tells the hammer the twins are fine. Wendy climbs the hill for a small, respectful fire. Stan picks up the newspaper at last and folds it into a boat for the kitchen sink. Ford writes, "We are lucky," in the margin of a map and underlines it twice. The pines fence the yard in patience. An owl promises to keep watch, though the town never really needs it. The lake spreads out its darker blanket. The bell tower closes its eyes. Summer takes a breath. Autumn holds the door. Somewhere on the road, two kids lean together and sleep. Take one more slow breath in. Hold it like a small, warm stone. Let it out the way lantern light leaves your hands. Easy, sure, kind. The town has put everything away for the night. Main Street tucked its chalk and its broom. The bell tower finished counting what mattered. The post office stacked the letters that will arrive exactly when they are needed. The archive closed its drawers over maps that know the way by heart. The market folded its oddities into neat boxes and told them, "Rest until tomorrow." The river cupped the last lanterns and took them where gentle goes. The lake turned its face to the sky and promised to remember. The hills let their fires become stories. The shack set a cup out for the morning and left its light where lost feet can find it. Nothing is missing. Nothing is rushing. The night here is not a wall. It's a door left open, a blanket you can tuck under your chin. If you want, visit your favorite place once more in your mind. Sit on the carnival bench while the carousel sighs into sleep. Walk the echo path until your voice decides to rest. Stand on the dock and let the lake make you bigger by making you still. Pick one star and tell it good night. It will answer the way stars answer, by staying. And when thoughts wander, as they do, let them wander in Gravity Falls. The paths are loops. The loops return to porches. Porches hold chairs. Chairs hold people. People hold the day just long enough to bless it. Then they let it go. Your breath and the pines are the same rhythm now. In, like wind through needles. Out, like pages turned by gentle hands. If sleep knocks, you can answer. If it taps softly and waits, that is fine too. The story does not leave if you drift. It curls up at the foot of the bed and keeps you company. In the morning, it will open its eyes when you open yours and finish the line you left mid-sentence exactly where you left it, exactly how you meant it. Good night to the bell that keeps 2 hours. Good night to the letters that find their people. Good night to the maps that know kindness is a route. Good night to the market's small magics. Good night to lanterns that carry love like cargo. Good night to tools that work best at midnight. Good night to fires that warm hands and not trouble. Good night to a carnival that remembers how to whisper. Good night to a last night that felt like arriving. Good night to the twins, the keepers, the friends. Good night to the house with the light left on in the window. Good night, Gravity Falls. Sleep now. When you wake, the pines will still be here, swaying like a lullaby you can hum, and the town will be waiting at the edge of morning with a cup, a map, a smile, and the simplest promise a place can make.